Okay, cool. So, Plachette, this first part might be a little bit of a duplicate for you. We're doing a similar intro each time. So just so you can, wash the dishes or tune out or, something for the first few slides while we go through this information. And then we'll get to the slide where we present the new stuff for tonight, just so you know. And welcome, Vivian. This is a great little grok. Emily, do you go first? I can't remember. Or is it me? It's me. It's me. Hello. So welcome everyone to our Big Fat Masterclass Night 2. We're so glad that you're here. We are going to first and foremost welcome you. We love being in these kinds of groups, being with our community, big or small. It gives us a chance to get to know folks and help folks either before they're on their journey to pregnancy or after they've already started. So it's so lovely to have everyone here. And tonight, Emily's going to go over what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so yesterday we talked all about unlocking confidence, how confidence during labor lowers pain. Tonight we are going to talk about anti-fat bias in prenatal care, recognizing and affirming your anger. Really excited for this topic. If you join us tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be talking about debunking fat myths about fat birth, encouraging you that you are not a statistic. Thursday, we are going to be working on building community, finding support and cheerleaders. And Friday is the last day of our masterclass where we will talk about how to be an active participant in your journey.
Good.
So we would love to introduce ourselves here. My name's Emily Bernay. I use she, her pronouns. My educational background is in education, actually. I have an MED in adult education. I'm also a certified doula and lactation educator. And Christina and I are the co-owners of Big Fat Pregnancy. And this is how I get to meld being a doula and being in education and put those two things together. I also have two little kiddos, 2 and 7, and I am lesbian, white, and straight sized.
Cool. Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm the founder and, like Emily said, co-owner of Big Fat Pregnancy. I use she, her pronouns, and I am coming to you from the stolen lands of the Stillaguamish, Coast Salish, and Suquamish peoples, also known as Edmonds, Washington. I am also a certified doula, and I also have my master's in education. It's always so funny when Emily and I do introductions because it's like literally the same. And I also have 2 small children. My kids are 2 and almost 5. And I founded Big Fat Pregnancy as I was going through my journey of living in a fat body. I identify as fat. And as I was going through my pregnancy journey, I felt so alone and I felt so defeated about the types of care that was out there, and just becoming another statistic and becoming just another fat person who was going to be labeled high risk and have all these complications. And I had a really poor outlook on my pregnancy. And then I ended up meeting some really amazing care providers that changed my whole trajectory. So they allowed me, or at least influenced my journey, to have 2 wonderful home births in a fat body. And now I have 2 wonderful, happy children, and I'm a parent in a fat body. So just a little bit about me and how we came to be.
So, welcome to our masterclass. Our goal this week is to build a foundation of knowledge around anti-fat bias in prenatal care and discuss some of the most common areas we see our clients struggle. That's our doula clients. So you can start your journey more prepared, confident, and excited. Pregnancy and birth are possible in a larger body. We will do a presentation about our topic today, and we also will have plenty of time for Q&A, which is always our favorite part. So please, as we're going along, think of any questions you might have. We are happy to answer them at the end.
Cool. So before we get into the content today, we recognize that not everyone is showing up today at the same level of exploration around fatness or anti-fat bias. Like I said earlier, I identify as fat. I predominantly use the word fat when I describe myself, as well as the clients that I work with, but I also use plus size, folks living in larger bodies. To me, calling me fat or describing me as fat is not an insult. It's a descriptor that I use to describe the adipose tissue on my body. You can use whatever term makes you feel comfortable. So for today, excuse me, we want to define anti-fat bias so folks know where we're at, and then I also want to define body liberation so folks know where we're going, so you can kind of get the bigger picture for us here. So anti-fat bias is bias that is often personal and unreasoned judgment or prejudice against people or against a person or a group. We can have implicit bias and explicit bias. Both of them show up in the system, or both of them show up when we talk about bias. And anti-fat bias specifically is bias against folks who live in larger bodies or appear to have a larger body size. So we want to move away from the way anti-fat bias shows up across systems and towards body liberation. So body liberation is freedom from those social and political systems of oppression that designate certain bodies as more worthy, more healthy, or more desirable than others. And specifically why we're here and what motivates Emily and I to keep working, and believe me, there's no shortage of work, is anti-fat bias that shows up specifically in prenatal care. So prenatal care is a really crucial aspect of making sure that both the well-being of the pregnant person as well as their baby or babies is really put at the forefront of care. And we are seeing anti-fat bias interfere with that care and well-being. Anti-fat bias can impact the pregnancy and births. It can impact safety. It can impact outcomes for both babe and parent. The consequences can be emotional or physical. And some really simple examples that maybe folks, would relate to or haven't thought about. One of the biggest being increased stress. So when we think about the fact that you always have to weigh in when you get to your prenatal appointment, you have to have your blood pressure checked right away. If you are high risk for any reason, or even if you're not actually high risk, but you're labeled so because of BMI, it's the first thing on your chart. It's the first thing in your electronic records. And seeing those things and having to have those conversations over and over again can get really stressful. And some folks don't like to deal with that, so they don't go to their appointments, which interferes with the prenatal care that we're hoping they get. And then some other ways we see is the denial of treatment. This is specifically really common in fertility, and we also see shorter appointment times. Some of the ways we see providers may be over-involved is over-screening for gestational diabetes, so testing more than you need to, doing growth scans just to check baby's weight in case they suspect a quote-unquote big baby, which is a whole masterclass in and of itself, big babies. And what we see under screening for things like eating disorders or HG, which is hyperemesis gravidarium, which is where extreme nausea and morning sickness that happens at all times of the day. So those are just, a few ways we see bias show up in our system. And Emily, you're up.
Yeah. So talking about all these issues that come from anti-fat bias, you may be wondering, why is that up to me? Like, why are we going to talk about individual solutions when this is clearly like a systemic problem? These are widespread solutions that affect all different types of fat people across the United States and really over the world. And while we agree there really needs to be systemic change, there needs to be hospitals and, medical providers and insurance companies that are making widespread changes. The truth is that you are still going to be affected by this. And so we want to help you find ways to get support individually to fight against these things that you might experience during your care. And individuals can change faster than systems have. And so we want to give you some skills to help you implement immediately in your care.
Heck yes,
and,
we do.
and still work for that systemic change.
Yes. And one of the ways that Emily and I work for that systemic change is that we host workshops and trainings for birth workers, other birth workers and professionals who are interested in recognizing how anti-fat bias shows up in their world. So we're trying to hit it from both sides, trying to be with our clients and also with our providers who are going to be directly impacting our client experience. So um, okay, so yesterday we talked about unlocking confidence and how that can impact your labor experience. And today we're going to talk about anti-fat bias a little bit more specifically in the lens of anger. So we're going to talk about this discrimination, specifically anti-fat bias, that has really infiltrated our system in many, many ways, but in a lot of ways that people don't know. So more than 40% of adults across a range of body size, and even a larger number of those who live in larger bodies, have reported experiencing weight stigma at some point in their life. And this is just reporting, right? We all know this is not the entire population. This is not everyone's experiences. And I can only imagine that that would make this number higher. We are also seeing up to 30% of individuals with larger bodies report experiencing anti-fat bias during their prenatal care. Again, this is a relatively recent study. It's from 2023. But again, I still think that number is higher based on a ton of people who probably aren't reporting or weren't included in whatever this study was using as a survey tool. And also, there are a lot of people who may not love the way they're treated by their doctor, but they might not know that it's anti-fat bias. They might not know that extra testing suggestions are, lumped into that when there's no medical reason. So we use the anger about this. I don't know about you, but that makes me angry that we're experiencing these things, and it's why I do my job. It's what I'm so passionate about. And not only were these 30% of folks experiencing weight stigma, but they also, or I guess I should say how it showed up, is their providers asked fewer questions. They spent less time with them in appointments. There was less rapport building, so providers tried less to establish a relationship with their patients, and they had fewer approval statements. So either informing clients what was going on or approving of what a client was asking or doing. So, and this again is this is a new study, and it's based solely on their body size. Nothing else about these patients was taken into consideration here. And also in this study, there's another really good statement where they pull out that they had less self-disclosure statements, which means that the doctor told them less about themselves. Again, that goes into that rapport building, and there weren't attempts to kind of strengthen that relationship together, which we all know that's like a super important part of having a good care team, is feeling like you like them. You don't have to love them, but feeling like they're invested in your care and that they want to see you succeed. And so if they're not even putting in the effort to establish those relationships, it doesn't leave a lot of space for folks to ask the questions they want to ask or feel confident and comfortable in their decisions. So we live in a society today that really tells us that anger is bad, that we should suppress our anger, that we should not be angry, that we should work through our anger as fast as possible and get through that emotion. But we really think that anger can be a powerful force for positive change. I know that a lot of my rage is channeled into what I do. And so just really quick to define anger, it's a natural and valid emotion that arises when we perceive injustice or wrongdoing or threats to our own well-being. So it makes total sense that we would get angry if we're working with providers who don't respect us or spend time with us or give us valid solutions. That is a threat to our well-being, and injustice and wrongdoing. So it's a signal. Anger is a signal that something is not right, and it can motivate us to take action to address the issue. And so instead of viewing anger as something to be avoided, we work with our clients, or I work with myself a lot, on harnessing that anger, right? To use its energy and use it constructively, again, as that catalyst of change. It has actually a lot of power to fuel our motivation and determination, because we're more likely to take emotion and advocate for change. So Heather Lynch, who is a PhD in psychological and brain sciences, she says that the view that positive emotion is ideal for mental health and well-being has been prominent in the lay and psychological accounts of emotion, but previous research and also current research, I was doing a little bit more research on this last night, suggests that a mix of emotions, including negative emotions like anger, actually result in the best outcomes. So anger can be a really valuable tool for resolving conflict. It's a natural human emotion and it can be harnessed for positive change. Yeah, so that's a little bit more about how anger is actually really important in the process, and using anger as a motivator instead of a demotivator, or using it to turn it inwards, like blaming or shaming yourself, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be frustrated with my doctor. We could also do a whole masterclass on the shoulds. But those are definitely right. We want to not internalize this anger. We want to use it outward.
Need to do a masterclass on shoulds and lets.
Yeah, shoulds and lets and allow
And allow.
and
That
allow.
comes up in the first space a lot of like, are they gonna let me do something? And it's like, hang on a second, you don't, providers don't let you do things. You are
Yeah.
the boss of your body. But yeah, so let's talk about how do we utilize anger to enact change. We'd love to do a little crowdsourcing teamwork on this. So we are going to do the Zoom whiteboard. And Christina, I think you're, oh wait, I think I can do it actually.
Yeah, you should be host too.
Awesome. All
Yay.
right, folks. So we are going to do a little whiteboard here, and I would love if you could put on here any thoughts you have about how you can utilize anger to enact change. Christina, does it look okay on your end?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
Emily, do you want to remind folks which buttons to push and how to use it?
Yeah, I actually like cannot see anything. Mine is just a black screen.
Oh, really? Oh, here,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Okay.
Is it sharing? Yeah, it must be sharing because I can see Plachette's arrow on there.
That's so
Um,
funny.
I wonder why you can't. Oh, are we maybe the same host? Wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
think so. Well, maybe we might have to put it in the chat then if you can't see it to lead it, unless you want me to do it.
Um, yeah, why don't you go ahead if you're able to
Okay.
see?
Yeah, sure. So on the whiteboard, you can either click the option for a sticky note or text, whatever feels good to you. And you just click wherever you want to write or wherever you want to place that sticky note. And then you can just start typing in the sticky note or the text, maybe some ideas that you have for how we would utilize that anger. If you're on a mobile device, I believe the buttons are up in the corner of the drop down, or the three little line arrows potentially. Wait, let me look. Oh no, sorry, it's the plus sign down in the bottom right, bottom left corner. You'll get the option for a pen, a text, or a sticky note. So if you're on a mobile, you'll see it from down there.
So we'll take a few
Awesome.
moments now to let folks think about that and add some sticky notes. Let us know if you have any questions or any trouble doing that. If you have, you can also throw things in the chat if that's easier for you.
I'm struggling to find the button to add like a note.
Are you on a computer or a phone?
I'm on a computer.
Yeah, so if you go to the far left of the screen, can you see the little column on the side that says it has tools in it?
Nope.
No.
Okay, why don't we just use the chat then?
Yeah, might be easier today.
Yeah. There's nothing on there yet, Christina, right?
There was just one thing. Yeah, we can just type it in the chat. That'll be easy for today. There was one
Okay.
thing Vivian wrote, possibly protesting.
Okay, cool. suggestion.
So again, we're just looking at ways that we could be utilizing anger to enact change. And this can be on like a individual scale or a bigger scale. So yeah, so Vivian wrote standing up for a friend, right? When we're angry, frustrated, we see something that's happening, we can stand up or step in and say something to whoever is doing the wrongdoing if we feel comfortable and it's safe to do so. It's a good one. What else? Anger, Chat says, anger can help you seek different ways to do things. Yeah, that's a good one. Did you want to elaborate on that? Did you have anything specific in mind or just generally?
I was trying to figure out how to say what I was thinking, but I think um, it can encourage you to maybe seek like providers who don't have certain bias or to do your own research
Mm,
about things. I also think
yeah.
anger can help guide you towards what you need, um, because anger, like, really is like it's almost like a signal that something like that you aren't being treated properly. So I think it can help guide you to like better treatment.
Yeah, I love that one. Helps you know whenever something's not right. It's like that internal knowing that you have. Some other
And I
things
think
that
anger, oh, go
yeah.
ahead. I was just gonna say, I think anger, like I said, I think it's so commonly looked down upon as like a bad, quote unquote, bad emotion, right? Like we shouldn't be feeling angry, or like we start to justify like the behavior of someone else so that we move out of feeling angry. And I think
Mm,
it's really important for our clients and folks who are going to be, having babies inside of these hospital systems to recognize that anger, like you were saying, Plachette, like use it as a cue. Um, but also like don't diminish like how it makes you feel, right? Like I think we have a lot of times, I mean, especially I know women do have a hard time of like, oh well, then I must have done something wrong. Like, if I'm feeling angry, then what's going on in this situation, or like what did I do wrong or what did I say? So
mhm,
anger always gives me a pause to think about what's actually happening in the situation.
mhm. Yeah. Think it can be hard to not go into problem solving mode sometimes and be like, oh, I have
Hmm.
a negative emotion, whether it's anger or
Hmm.
sadness or something else, and be like, okay, now I have to like solve this. I have to get out of this
Hmm.
negative emotion. Whenever
Hmm.
sometimes that emotion is really just information for you.
Yeah.
Some of the things, the other ideas and suggestions we have for utilizing anger is that it can help you set and maintain boundaries, which is a great
Hmm.
thing to do, especially with medical providers as well. That if your provider is doing something that makes you uncomfortable, you should be setting a boundary there, and using that anger feeling to help remind you of what that is for you. Um, and it can also be a good way to feel strong in your convictions, and know that you are correct, right? Listen to that inner knowing that you have. Um, and then we can also use anger to replace shame. If you're
Hmm.
told that your body is wrong and that we need to change, um, it becomes an individual problem that we feel shame. And you can use that to switch and use it to anger. Like you don't own that shame. You don't need to change. I'm just gonna read this question.
Do you see that? Yeah, question in the
Yeah,
chat.
can you provide a tip for how to set a boundary when it's hard or you feel scared? Mm, yes, definitely. I'm just thinking of a good example. So I think being really secure in your personal reasoning, not that you have to share it, but um like you don't want something, you don't want your provider to take a
Hmm.
particular action. So you know that that's your feeling, your so whenever you go to talk to your provider about it, if it helps you to provide reasons, you can provide reasons, but sometimes it's just better to say like, I am not okay with this. Do you have a problem respecting that? And that really direct communication can be really helpful too. Another way to go about that conversation is to go with someone else, whether that's your support person, your doula, a friend, just to have that like community feeling and someone there who's
Hmm.
supporting you. What do you
Yeah,
think, Christina?
I think a really good example is being weighed, right? We get this
Hmm.
question a lot of like, do I have to be weighed when I go to a prenatal appointment and or any doctor's appointment, really? And the answer is no, you do not have to be weighed. And I think a lot of times people feel like they have to provide an answer, like you were saying, right? They have to justify why they're saying no. And simply saying no, thank you, or no, right? Not today. I'm not going to be weighed today. Anything like that that sets the boundary. I can tell you, I have been doing this for years. I have been saying no to being weighed for years. Sometimes it goes over well and people don't really care. They're like, okay, cool. And then sometimes people will come back at you and, um, provide reasons why you quote unquote have to be weighed, which is not true. But I think that's a super easy place to start practicing holding your boundary, is just by starting with the weighing, right? No, thank you. And I will say, after 4 years in my primary care physician, I finally am no longer being asked to be weighed. It took them 4 years, but I finally made it to where they don't ask me when I walk in the door. It's not the first thing they ask. So it is possible. And I've been practicing that boundary for a really long time. And
Hmm.
I still struggle with it sometimes. Like when they ask me and they push me, I'm like, God, it would just be so much easier just to step on the scale. But like, I don't want to because it messes with my brain and my psyche and my eating disorder history. So, right, like it's not healthy for me. And I know that. And I have to hold that boundary. Even though I want to like please the PA or like, give them the information they need so that their day is also easier and we don't have to go back and forth. But I think that's a common one where our clients get angry because they've maybe asked that not to be weighed multiple times, right? And they have to keep holding and affirming that boundary. So
Hmm.
again, using that anger, I think in that specific situation is a super powerful
Hmm.
example of how you can use anger to just like keep that boundary for yourself.
Totally. Um, how do you manage that boundary with the doctor?
How do I
Great
manage that
question.
boundary with a doctor? Yeah, that's a really good question. It depends on which boundary they're pushing. If they're specifically pushing the weight boundary, I always start with the simplest answer first. I say no. And if they ask again, I say, no, thank you. I'm not interested in doing that today. And then if they keep pushing, I sometimes will say, no, thank you. I have an eating disorder in my past, and it's not safe for me to step on the scale. You can talk about like my weight is not important to my care here, depending on what you're going in for. I've been asked to be weighed when I went in because I had a sore throat one time and I needed codeine cough syrup. And the doctor said, well, you're gonna have to get on the scale so we know how much you weigh so um we can accurately, gauge this prescription. And I said, I'm not a little kid, like you can just give me the adult version. Like it's gonna be okay. And then there have been other reasons, other ways, anesthesia specifically, I have had to be weighed for, but I just ask them to do what's called a blind weight or a no see weight, which is where you just either turn around on the scale so they can't see you, you can't see the number, and then you ask them not to tell you. Most people after 2 or 3 no's will hold the boundary. Whether they're going to hold it from appointment to appointment is where we see people have to really dig in and be like, okay, I know they asked me this time. Now I'm going to have to say it again this next time.
Hmm.
Yeah. Does that help? Does that help? Help?
I think so. I think one of the things that I get worried about and what's happened to me in not doctor appointments with pregnancy, but even like going to see my OBGYN, and I had my period stopped for like 2 months.
Mm,
I had to personally dig into the reason why, and I kind of figured it out on my own. But at the time, my doctor was like, "Oh, well, it looks like you gained weight over the pandemic, and you
mm,
probably just had like an estrogen spike because of your weight gain, which was like 2 years prior to the day that I saw her, so it didn't feel applicable. Like,
yeah.
and it did make me angry, and it made me feel like I can't really trust her opinion.
Hmm.
But I didn't, and I could feel it at the moment when she was saying that it's because of my weight gain. I could feel that she was wrong, but I
Hmm.
didn't know how to debate with her, so to speak. I think doctors often
Yeah.
have this bet, like, other than thou, I know
Mm-hmm.
more than you disposition about
Hmm.
things,
Yeah.
especially with fat people. And I think it makes it
Hmm.
difficult to set a boundary or to encourage them to explore other reasons. Like, do you have, I guess in that case, you just go to a different doctor, but like, how do you, in the moment, I guess, when you're
Yeah.
getting met with that kind of feedback, like maybe they're saying you're at risk for gestational diabetes, or, you know, telling me all these bad things that are going to happen or could happen because I'm fat and pregnant. Like, how do you handle that in the moment?
Yeah, definitely. It's such a good question because I mean, our emotions are strong as well. And when something like that happens and we feel frustrated or angry or sad or embarrassed or whatever emotion's coming up, right? It can be strong and it can be hard to move past not only our own emotions, but to, like you said, kind of push back against the doctor who's telling you, quote unquote, something is right, right? Or the reason. So one of the things, if you need a minute to kind of gather your thoughts before you go back to the doctor and you know you want to ask a question or you know you want to say something, but you're really frustrated and you need a minute, I usually always start, this is my favorite statement, excuse me, what you said just caught me off guard. I need a moment to digest or think about that before we continue. And allows for that allows for a pause in the conversation so they don't just start talking over you, and gives you a minute to think about what it is that you're feeling and like what your brain wants to say out loud. So I usually start with that and then I take a pause and I think about, okay, why am I angry? What made me angry and how do I want to move forward? When someone says something like the example you said, where your doctor told you, oh, well, it must just be the weight gain you gained over the pandemic. That's typically when I encourage clients to say, okay, thanks for that information. What else could it be? Just as simple as that, right? What else could it be? And then when they say something else, you say, what else could it be? Right? Is there anything else that could be contributing to this? Because especially when we look at fertility, when we look at ovulation, when we look at cycles, right? There's so many things that can influence our cycles, right? And so it can be hormonal, it can be environmental, it can be mental, right? With stress. So I just usually encourage them to, I slightly challenge them to explore their big book of boo boos. If we're talking from Doc McStuffins here, I've been watching that so much with my kids. All I can think of is the big book of boo boos. Um, to just keep pushing them and keep asking them, like, okay, cool. What else could it be? What else could it be? The other question you could ask is, so how based on the information you have, what is causing you to believe that? What is causing you to believe that it's the weight gain? And if it's not the weight gain, again, what else could it be? If you don't follow Reagan Chastain, I would definitely follow her. She does a lot on weight inclusive care. It's like her specialty, just in general, not pregnancy specifically. But she has a workshop. The free recorded workshop that's all about that. It's like what to say to your doctor when they won't listen. And she has some really good phrases in there as well. Of course, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but she has some really good ones in there.
Yes, I love the
Emily,
what
did you
else
have
could
anything?
it be? Yeah.
Yeah,
And also, like
yeah,
if I were a skinny person, what test would you run?
yeah. If I were, yeah, that's a good one too. Um,
Just like
I was
making
thinking about
them
something.
making them, forcing them to, consider your care instead of just saying, oh, it's just weight. Like that is such a brush off.
Lazy medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I constantly remind myself too when I go see my doctor, especially when they like make any sort of nutrition advice or like saying like, oh, well, you just need to lose weight, like it's just calories in, calories out, or they throw anything at me. In my brain, I might not, I don't, I've never said this out loud, but like in my brain, I remind myself that like most medical school curriculum, doctors have 24 hours of nutrition in their whole 4 to 8 year, including school and residency. They have 24 hours of nutrition unless they specialize in it. And like 24 hours of nutrition education is not enough to be telling you what is good or bad for your body, right? So I keep that fact in the back of my brain too, and it makes it a little easier to kind of just say, okay, okay, yeah, well, I'll take that into consideration, and then yeah, find someone else or see another doctor the next time I go back.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Think, really
questions.
trying to find a primary care physician that you can cultivate a relationship and have a starting point
Yeah.
is really important. And then, using these phrases and having them in your back pocket in case you ever need to go to like the emergency room or like not see your usual care provider, so that you do at least have like your primary person is someone who, you know, believes in your care and will take good care of the whole you.
Yeah, definitely important. Okay.
Thank
Emily, you want
you.
me to go to the next?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So, hopefully today you're feeling like a little bit angry about all these ways that bias can show up in your care, right? Like we want you to feel a little bit angry. It's not okay. And that anger will help you demand the care that you deserve, and help you show up to your prenatal appointments, ready to advocate for yourself, and how you can use this anger for your own individual gain. We really want you to have firm beliefs in birthing rights and standards of care and how fucked up weight bias has made our system, and use that anger to help you feel confident to push back and advocate for yourself and collaborate for the best care that you deserve.
And we want to use that anger and expand on it in the course that we've created. So if you've ever, been frustrated with the overwhelming statistics about birthing in a larger body, if you've ever felt alone on your journey to conceive, if you've ever doubted if you even want to get pregnant in a bigger body because of all the bullshit that we have to wade through, this course is definitely for you. Emily and I have worked with fat folks one-to-one as both doula clients, and I do some fat positive consulting to troubleshoot biased providers, to help them either find another one or wade through them, to practice dialogue conversations, and to be by our client's side when they are able to bring those babies earthside. We both read a lot of research papers, we learn about fat activism, and we are in the community, a fat community, and we've taken all of that knowledge and experience, and we've put it into this course. We are so proud of it, and we want everyone to have access to it. So we created this course to do just that, to provide a fountain of knowledge, a foundation of knowledge for folks who are newly pregnant or trying to conceive, who are really struggling with the hurdle of finding an inclusive care team. So this course talks about the roots of anti-fat bias, which are rooted in racism, talks about how oppressed fat bodies have been and how they're currently oppressed during pregnancy specifically. We talk a lot about how this actually shows up in prenatal care, not in birth and postpartum, not just not just generally, bias in general care. And we shine a light on even more examples of how anti-fat bias shows up in prenatal care so that you can learn the skills to combat it and should you encounter it on your own pregnancy journey.
We are educators through and through, and one of the most important parts about our course for us was that we found a module that was really going to work for our learners and have all the bells and whistles that we wanted. So we have an awesome learning platform. It's got 8 different modules in this course. We've also have an integrated workbook, which is built into the course. So it's right there. It's an opportunity for you to have some self-reflection, for you to remember and hold pieces of the course with you and download it when you're done. So you'll always have that as a part of your learning. You can also expect to find lots of video lessons, extensive content, all kinds of resources. We have pulled all the resources that we have used with our clients, and it's in this course. We also go through some skills to help you build a size inclusive birth team and help you some more with those conversations to confidently talk to your provider. And collaborate with them too. We want it to be a collaborative relationship. So we work on having those types of conversations that will build that collaboration. We also are doing 6 live weekly group support calls when this course starts. So our course starts on February 12th, and then we will have weekly calls starting the 20th. We will dive deeper into topics. We will answer your questions, talk all about it. And also the calls are an opportunity for us to build community. We also have a built-in community in the course, so you'll get to know the other people that are taking the course with you. We think it's really important that you are getting to know people that share your identities, and we see our community space as a way to do that. So if you're interested in our course, we have a coupon for $75 off through Monday, which is early bird, which brings the price of the course to $250. So if you're interested, please grab that. Feel free to share it with anyone. We don't have a limit on that. And Vivian just
do you want to put the link in the chat?
Oh yeah, I'll grab that.
I always forget to grab
do you want
that
to answer
ahead
this
of time.
question?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, sure. So Vivian says, what are you going to talk about in the calls, and will they have a topic? That is such a good question. So we will not have a specific topic each week because we might have folks who join at different times and they might not be in the same place in the course, or they work through the course in their own pace. So we might not all be at the same place in the course. So we're not going to do a topic specific approach necessarily. We might talk about something general in pregnancy, or if we ran into something that week that we thought would be helpful. But we're really using it as a time for our learners to ask questions, either direct questions about the content itself, or questions about their own personal situation and how it applies to the course, or how they can apply the course learning to their own personal situation. And then, yeah, just kind of go from there. Usually questions beget questions. And so once we kind of get that rolling, we tend to see a lot more questions pop up, and it fills our time pretty quickly. Did you have anything else to add, Emily?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Okay. So that's our formal, quote unquote, formal presentation for tonight. And now we just have some time left, about 15 minutes, to answer any questions, general questions, course questions, personal questions. You can put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and we can just have a little convo. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.